This lesson is on the surface area and volume of prisms. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to find the surface area and volume of any prism. So in the first lesson, we learned what a prism is. It's just a three-dimensional shape with the top and base that are congruent polygons. These are usually just referred to as the bases. They're always going to be equal to each other or congruent to each other, meaning that all the sides are the same length, their areas and perimeters are the same. Then all the other lateral faces or sides are parallelograms, and in this case they're all going to be rectangles. Each prism will be named for the shape of its base. So this is a triangular prism, a square prism, a pentagonal prism, a hexagonal prism. In this lesson, we're just going to focus on rectangular prisms and triangular prisms. So we also learned in the first lesson that surface area is the total area of the surface of a three-dimensional object. The number of square units it would take to cover a three-dimensional object is what you're finding when you calculate surface area. So to calculate surface area, you're going to add up the areas of all the sides or faces. So we're going to first find the surface area of this rectangular prism. To start off, we're going to find the area of the top of the prism by multiplying 3 by 4. So that gives us the area of the top side of the prism. Then we're going to add to that the area of the front of the prism. To find the area of the front of the prism, we're going to multiply 5 by 4 because it's just a rectangle, so you just multiply length by width. Next, we have the side of the prism. So to find the area of the side, we're going to multiply 3 by 5 to find the area of that rectangle. Now, right now we can only see 3 sides of the rectangular prism, but we know that each side has another side that is congruent to it. So opposite the right side is the left side. That prism would also be 3 by 5. Opposite the top is the bottom, that would also be 3 by 4, and opposite the front is the back, which is also 5 by 4. So to account for that, we're going to multiply our total areas by 2. So we'll find the area of the 3 sides we can see, add those up, and then multiply by 2. So I'm going to multiply 2 by 12 plus 20 plus 15. 12 plus 20 plus 15 is 47, and 2 times 47 is 94 square centimeters. Remember, surface area is always in square units because you're figuring out how many squares it would take to cover the surface. So the formula for surface area of a rectangular prism is 2 times the length times the width plus the length times the height plus the width times the height. Next, we're going to find the surface area of a triangular prism. It's the same idea. You're going to add up the areas of all the sides or faces. So we're going to start off by finding the area of the triangle. So the front and the back are our 2 bases. Those are the 2 congruent polygons. So those are our bases. We're going to start off finding the area of those triangles by multiplying base times height divided by 2. That's the formula for the area of a triangle. So in this case, the base is 6, the height is 4, so I'm going to multiply 4 by 6 and divide by 2. Then I have 2 triangles that are congruent, so I'm going to have to multiply that by 2 because those areas are the same. Now we need to somehow account for the other 3 rectangular sides. To account for those sides, or to find the areas of those sides, we can find the perimeter of the triangle and multiply it by the length or height of the prism. Now I say length or height because in this case, the triangle faces, the bases, are the front and the back. Sometimes the bases will be the top and the bottom. So right now 8 feet is the length. If we were to rotate this prism and make the triangles the top and the bottom, 8 feet would be the height. It's always the distance between the 2 triangles. So we have the area of the triangle multiplied by 2 because we have 2 triangles, plus the perimeter of the triangle multiplied by the length or the height of the prism. So I started off doing 4 times 6 divided by 2. That's 24 divided by 2, which is 12, times 2, plus the perimeter of the triangle, which is 5 plus 5 plus 6. That's 16 times 8. Then 12 times 2 is 24. 16 times 8 is 128. When you add those together, you get 152 square feet. So again, we're in square units because we're figuring out how many squares it would take to cover the surface. So the formula for the surface area of a triangular prism is the area of the triangle times 2 plus the perimeter of the triangle times the length or the height, depending on the way that the triangular prism is sitting. Next, we're going to find the volume of prisms. So the volume is the amount of space that a three-dimensional object occupies. It's the number of cubic units it would take to fill the three-dimensional object. So we're figuring out how many cubes it would take to fill the prism. So we're going to start off to find the volume of any prism. You multiply the area of the base by the height of the prism. So it'll also work for cylinders. We won't talk about that today, though. So to find the volume of this rectangular prism, you're going to start by finding the area of the base. In this case, we're going to use the top and bottom as the base. So we know that the top and bottom are 4 by 3 rectangles. So to find the area of the base, I'm going to multiply 4 by 3. Then I multiply that by the height, which is 5. So I'm finding the area of the base by multiplying the length by the width of the rectangular prism. Multiply that by the height of the prism, which is 5. So 4 times 3 times 5 is 12 times 5, which is 60 centimeters cubed. And our units for volume are always cubed because we're figuring out how many cubes it would take to fill the object. So the formula for the volume of any rectangular prism is length times width times height. Now we're going to work on a triangular prism. The basic idea is the same. We're going to multiply the area of the base by the height of the prism. So in this case, our base is a triangle. So we're going to find the area of the triangle by doing base times height divided by 2. I'm missing divided by 2 there, so should be divided by 2. So in this case, I'm going to multiply 4 by 6 and divide by 2, just like we found the area of that same triangle in the surface area example. So now I have 4 times 6 divided by 2, which is the area of the base, and I'm going to multiply that by the height of the prism. Well, since my front and back are my bases instead of the top and bottom, the height is actually the length in this case. It's always the distance between the two triangles. So I'm going to multiply by the length, which is 8. If this triangular prism had the triangles on the top and bottom, so if we rotated it and it was sitting differently, that'd be the height of the prism. So 4 times 6 divided by 2 is 12, times 8 is 96 cubic feet, or 96 feet cubed. Again, it's in cubic feet because we're figuring out how many cubes it would take to fill the object. So the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is the area of the triangle, which is base times height divided by 2, times the height or the length of the prism, depending on the way that the prism sits. That's all the information and all the formulas you should need to complete the practice problems and the test. If you have any questions, please let me know.